This is episode 10 of our Watercolor Florals series, and today we are painting these scribbly, loose, and ever so lovely English roses. Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Shayda and I am so excited to paint these loose English roses with you today. They are so much fun to paint and they're really achievable. Now, I was very inspired by an artist named Victoria Rothwell, and she's on Instagram as Design House of Moira. She does custom watercolor wedding invites and the like, and she has these beautiful roses in this scribbly style with the big loose petals. So I'm definitely emulating her, and that's what we're going to work through. I want to start by showing you my practice work, which I don't always show you, but I think it's important today because you can see here in the beginning, my petals were very round, almost cartoon-like, and as I practiced, I developed a shape that I was much happier with. The painting style is a little more sophisticated, the color blending is getting better, and I've also had the chance to mix up my paints and figure out my color palette ahead of time, and that's so important. If you find that you're often a little afraid to hit the paper, doing this planning ahead of time will make you so much more confident when you go to start painting your final piece. Now for supplies today, we're using cold pressed watercolor paper from Canson. I've got a couple glasses of water here, some paper towel for blotting, and then I am using this new little pocket set from Derwent. These 12 watercolor pans, I'm really loving them. They're very highly pigmented, and it's also just a really nice mix of colors. So sometimes you get a pocket set that's just primary colors and you have to mix everything. These are my colors. I've got moody greens, I've got magenta and this beautiful chartreuse yellow. I like to mix white into my paints, my watercolors, so I love that there's a white here. And you can see me starting to mix up my colors that I'm using for today's piece. These roses are going to be all shades of pink and burgundy and peach and almost a golden yellowy peach. So I'm loving the palette and I'm having a lot of fun mixing before I get into it. And I will be doing today's entire painting with a single brush. This is an animal hair round brush. It's a good quality paintbrush that has a large belly but also comes to a nice fine point. So you can use the belly to get large areas of paint and use that fine tip to do detail work. Now here are two round brushes. They are bad examples. One is frayed and one is bent because I put it in my backpack. So you want to make sure to get yourself a good quality brush and take care of it because it really will make such a difference to your painting style. And one last thing, and then I promise we'll start painting. We are running a giveaway because this is the 10th episode of Watercolor Florals, and that's pretty cool. So if you would like to enter to win a Koi 18-pan watercolor set as well as a Derwent Inktense wash set, they're both great products. All you have to do to enter is comment below and let me know what was your favorite episode of Watercolor Florals. Was it the lilacs or the ranunculus or the watercolor roses that you're seeing right now? So that's all you have to do, and make sure that you are subscribed and have your notifications turned on, okay? Contest closes Friday, August 30th. Okay, so I have started. I am doing this scribbly bit right in the center here, and I'm using the very tip of that pointed round brush to do this messy scribbly area. And then I'll pick up a little more paint on my brush and I start doing these sort of rounded lines, and they're just broken, thin, rounded lines, and they sort of enclose that scribbly area in the center. So we're doing the very heart of that flower bloom where all those tight petals are. And I think the scribble really works to show that there are all these layers and layers of petals just jammed in there. And so some of these lines that I'm now doing to surround that area, some are very thin and some are a little bit thicker, and that's where the belly of the brush comes in, where you can sort of drag the belly across the page a bit as you make those lines a little bit thicker. And one trick that I like to do to help with the shape is to wiggle the brush a little bit. As you drag the belly across the page, try wiggling it so that you don't get a semicircle that's too perfect. As I said, my first attempt sort of looked a bit cartoony, so that will help with that. And then you can add a little bit of darker paint or more pigmented paint to the inside edge of some of the petals, and that will just help to make them look like they are unfurling from the center. So step 1 is the scribbly center, step 2 is these semicircular rounded petals, and then step 3, we're going to do even larger petals, and I usually use a few brush strokes to do them. So what you'll see me do is pull the brush towards my body in these vertical strokes, or else push it away from myself in these vertical strokes, and that's because these are larger petals, they're sort of blooming out from center, and so I think that motion of the brush helps me to get the look of the petal right, but you can paint them however you like. I've also lightened up my paint by adding more water and maybe even a little bit of white, and that gives me these very delicate petals right on the outer edges. Some of them are almost barely there, and I think that look really works. So my first messy, scribbly rose is pretty much finished, and let's try this again. I'm going to give you a bit more of a close-up view. You can see me starting here in a nice warm dark peach tone, and I am doing this scribbly center, trying not to overthink it. Then I go in and start making some rounded lines, sort of like the broken bits of a circle surrounding that center part. Some of the lines are quite thin, others are a little thicker, or they're thick in the middle and thin on the edges. And then as we go outward, we make those lines thicker and thicker using the belly of the brush. And I like to make the petals a little lighter, as I said. And the nice thing about having all your colors there is if you want to darken or lighten the paint, you've already mixed up all these shades. So you can just throw a little extra pink in there or add a little extra water, and you can create colors that are very natural to the piece that you're working within. As we work through this rose, I just wanted to remind you that all of the channel bonus content is available on Patreon. Every Friday I release extra goodies, and I always release these floral artworks as a high-res JPEG that you can print yourself, and it looks so pretty. I just have a cheap printer at home, but I always print the florals on 90-pound watercolor paper because it's lighter and cheaper, and the printer can accept it, and I think they turn out so nicely. So if you're wanting some of the artwork that you see here, head over to my Patreon page and take a look. I'm really enjoying this style of rose painting, and I hope that you'll give it a try as well because it's a lot of fun. And that practice page made such a difference for me. I did not have it down when I first started, but I swear if you do 8 or 10 of these roses, by the time that you get to the 8th or 10th one, you're going to be saying, oh, okay, I get it. I see how it's coming together. So the practice work really does make the difference. Don't try to just start a finished painting, put in that extra bit of time and you're going to see the results. And it can just be 30 minutes of prep before you begin the good piece. And then you're not feeling the pressure of painting like this final finished amazing artwork when you just sit down. You need a little warm up. Musicians always do a warm up, and we as artists need that little warm up time as well. And I have to be honest, I'm still learning to paint roses in this style, and as I was watching the video back, it sort of dawned on me that maybe I had taken the rose a little too far. Like, I feel I did an extra row or layer of petals on each one, and I think the flowers would have looked more natural if I had stopped sooner. So if you think of the petals as rings that go outward, I wish that I had stopped before putting that final ring. And I think I had a little bit of that like symmetrical fever that affects all floral artists. You do not want your plants to look symmetrical because they never are. So it gives an unnatural look to the work. And so I think I just got obsessed with, like, if I put a petal here, then I need to add one here. And I kept going and going and going. And so I will be practicing these, and I'm going to have fun with it. I'm going to try to hold back and know when to stop. So So you don't need to keep going around and around. Once you do the layer of broken circular lines, then you could start with those larger petals, do a couple. They don't have to be even, they don't have to go all the way around, and then you're good. And so now I've mixed up a bit of green. I grabbed myself some clean water there, and I am just adding some stems. I always do stems in the same way, where I kind of drag the brush, there's the tip of the brush across the page, and make this very uneven, very not straight line. And I think that gives a nice look. That feeds in again to that idea of things shouldn't be too perfect. They shouldn't be too symmetrical. So give yourself permission to just play around. And you can see I do that when I paint the leaves as well. I'm just using the belly of the brush, dragging it across the page, maybe wiggling it a little bit, and whatever shape emerges, that's what I'll stick with. I release a little paint into that puddle wet area, maybe smooth it out a little, but other than that, I don't work the leaves too much. Tend to do leaves in the same way a lot of the time, and I'm okay with that. You can see here as I release a bit of darker paint into that wet area, and just gives a nice contrast to the leaves. It's not technical, but it does give a look of maybe the leaf is curling away from the light. The leaf is, bent. Bent's not the right word for a leaf, but it's not flat, and that some parts of that leaf would naturally be a little more well lit, and some would be in shadow. And you can see once I've laid down the shape of the leaf that I like to sort of pull a little bit of paint out along the perimeter, and it gives it that look of, I think those are called teeth along the sides of the leaf. If they have a jagged edge, that's sort of a toothy leaf. Not sure about that, but anywho, so you can see me doing that here again, just pulling along the perimeter and making a jagged edge. And I've dragged out this perfectly imperfect area of paint, created the jagged edge, and then I can release a little more paint into that wet area and let it just seep out. You might want to do some leaves on a bit of an angle so that you're only sort of seeing half of the leaf. That I think looks very nice and natural, and just adds that one more thoughtful design element to your overall painting. Okay, and then as I finish, I just wanted to point out that not every leaf needs to be full and finished. If you're not sure what to do, just leave white space. Not everything has to connect. That's the beauty of watercolor. And as the leaves are starting to dry, I'm going in with the tip of that round brush and doing some little lines to indicate the veining on the leaves. And I'll bleed some of those out to show more shadow and just give the leaves a little bit more hint of contrast. Some of the lines are going to be a bit darker, some are lighter. They're very perfectly imperfect. That's the style that I'm working with today, so I'm not overthinking this, and I'm just sort of having fun and quickly finishing up this entire painting. Now, once the leaves are complete, the flowers will probably be dry. Probably. And at that point, if you want to add a little more contrast, a little bit of darker paint, you can do some wet on dry. Of course, you always have a little more control with that sort of technique. And you can see here, I'm just adding a bit more shading, but I really need to back away and stop painting. All right, thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed these watercolor English roses. Don't forget to enter the giveaway by commenting below with your favorite watercolor florals episode so far, and make sure to subscribe as well. You need to subscribe to be entered in the giveaway. And I will see you guys soon with a new tutorial.